I think we've been taught the biggest lie. We must have work-life balance. I think that's the biggest crap in the world. You literally could have a life, not a pie in the sky, not get rich for doing anything, but you could have a life where you don't care and you don't know where work ends and life begins because you're growing as a human in both of them.
Mr. Dean Graziosi
is a very well-known entrepreneur, marketer, extremely successful coach, business owner, real estate investor, and an influencer now who has a lot of influence online.
He's obsessed with sharing the success habits learned along the way.
He's written 5 books which have dominated the success, business, and real estate book space since 2006, with his best-selling book amassing over 1 million copies sold.
How has AI changed the game? How do you think entrepreneurs are going to use AI? How do you use AI? I'd love to know.
It is going to change the game, and those that understand how to utilize it are going to be out in front. When you understand this allows you to have an unfair advantage. It allows you to be one step ahead. And those of you who are going to ignore it,
Young and Profiters, welcome back to the show. We are living in fast-changing times. Inflation, the internet, technology, AI, they are all changing the way that we interact with the world. And joining us today to speak about this is Dean Graziosi. Dean is a real estate mogul, an entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author. In today's episode, we'll be discussing how the game of business has changed and how we can leverage our own passions to capitalize on this new world. Dean, welcome to Young and Profiting Podcast.
great to be here.
I'm so excited for this conversation. So Young and Profiters, Dean came on the show, episode 68. And that was all the way back in 2020 when I first became an entrepreneur. Now I'm the entrepreneur of a company. I own a company called Yap Media. 60 people work at this company worldwide. And when I first talked to you, I was just this new entrepreneur, and you inspired me so much with your rags to riches story. I can't believe how much has changed. And the world has just changed so much since 2020.
Really?
We talked during COVID, the summer of COVID, basically. And the world was in so much flux. I'm sure you inspired so many people. So Younger Profiters, if you want to listen to that episode, it's episode 68. We talked about his amazing come-up story. We talked about the underdog advantage, the mindset of being an entrepreneur and staying resourceful. And we even talked about sales and confidence tips. So I highly recommend that episode for anybody who's a new entrepreneur, who wants to be inspired to become an entrepreneur. That's episode 68. And today we're just going to talk about entrepreneurship and how much the world has changed. So you actually have an upcoming event with Tony Robbins, June 13th to 15th, called The Game Has Changed. And in the event, you're going to be covering adapting to the new realities of being an entrepreneur and redefining the American dream. I've actually heard you say that the American dream needs a generational reboot. So I'd love to hear about that. Why do you feel the American dream has changed, and why do we need to rethink the way we think about the American dream?
Oh, great question. First off, I really want to give you kudos. I remember our interview in 2020, and I could see you were a little bit like a deer in headlights. It was new, it was fresh, your eyes were wide open, your energy was huge, and I think And I see why you've become so popular and why you inspire so many, because your story is amazing and your journey is amazing. And it just shows what's possible. When you're scared, you're unsure, but when you know there's another level of life waiting for you, you have to do the uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You have to do what other people aren't willing to do. You have to miss a few events. You have to say no to your friends a few times when they want to have cocktails and you're doing something and they think you're crazy and they think, oh, shouldn't you be back in a secure job? And all the crazy stuff that goes on in the invisible when no one's watching. The reason I love talking about entrepreneurship, because we have something in common. We have thoughts in our mind that most people don't when no one's around. We're thinking, are we going to make this? How are we going to make this? How do I get more creative? How do I get innovative? Where can I learn? What podcast should I listen to? What book should I listen to? What mentor should I have? What course should I buy? We're doing all this stuff in the invisible. So in the in the light on front stage, it looks like we have something unique. We are special. We got lucky, when that's not the case. We're doing the work when no one's watching. And if you're here on this podcast, you are doing that work. You are doing the investigating. That's why I love being with a group like this, and I look forward to having fun. I'm in a mood today, so let's have some fun. I want to share as much as possible.
I love it. I feel your energy. I love it.
So the question is, state your question again so I can nail it.
So I want to understand how the American dream has changed, because
Yeah. So Here's what, and listen, it doesn't mean this is going to be politically correct with everyone. I'm just sharing. I come from a different generation from a lot of the people that are watching. I'm 55, even though I have some young children, and I love feeling young, staying young, but still, I've been around a little longer than most. And when I was young, there wasn't the internet. You couldn't find somebody like you who was sharing information, interviewing amazing people. It wasn't so easy to download podcasts or books on audio, right? If you wanted more, you had to find a mentor or read some books, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, what the American dream meant to me as a kid is two things. One, my grandfather came from Italy, and he didn't have the money to get from Italy to America in the late 1800s. So his family gave him a donkey that he walked down to the docks, found a boat going to America, sold the donkey, and still didn't have enough. So he made a deal to shovel coal in the steam engine as a ticket to America. Never saw his family again, got on this boat, came to America, got dropped off on Ellis Island in New York City without $1 in his pocket, didn't know a human being, and didn't know the language. That was my grandfather, Hala. And right now, I live an abundant life where I get to impact people for a living. I get to partner with the people that I respect the most. I retire my mom, retire my dad, and make sure my family's okay. I get to be in control of my calendar, my time, because of what I believe is the American dream, which is entrepreneurship and having the opportunity to have no limits. That is the simple definition, right? But a lot's changed, especially since COVID, and people think, is capitalism greed? Is wanting to be an entrepreneur and do your own thing, is it still popular? Is it still a good thing? The fact of the matter is, our country, America at least, and most of the world is fueled by small businesses. We see the big Apple and we see the big, Amazon, but this country is fueled by the startup entrepreneur that does their own thing, that does the work in the invisible. And I believe that whatever your beliefs are, I believe we are pushed so far away in the last couple of years that maybe doing your own thing isn't good. Maybe it is greedy to want to be successful. I think people were criticized for working hard. And I think we push so far to one extreme that I see a rebound that is massive. Right now, each month, more people are registering new businesses than ever before in the history of America. Right now, people are saying, enough, BS, I want to do my own thing. I don't want restrictions. I don't want a glass ceiling. I don't want someone with their thumb on my head. I don't want someone to adjust my calendar. I'm going to gain the skills, gain the capabilities, and get your version of the American dream. And I think we get to design, no matter where you are in the world, I think the American dream is just hope with a path. Like we hope we can have more. Find somebody who's already done it and go all in to reach our full potential. So that's my belief, and I love what I get blessed to do I'm blessed to do for a living, along with my partner Tony Robbins, is just help people sometimes take off the facade, take off the locks, the blocks, the limiting beliefs, the imposter syndrome, and just see you for who you are when you look in the mirror and go, I'm more than this. I know I'm meant for more. I know I can do more. I'm enough. I know enough. I can do this. I just need a path. And I love helping people find that path, just like you do, or you wouldn't be doing this podcast.
100%. And I love what you're saying because it's so true. Life is easier now. It's easier for entrepreneurs. It's never been easier to become an entrepreneur. We've got all these new technologies and advantages and opportunities. And like you said, my dad came to America and he told me a story. All he came was he had a chicken that his grandma gave him or something when he came to America. And then he became a doctor and a surgeon and all these things. And he started from nothing. So similarly,
I love that.
I feel like I had no excuses. I grew up with, I have no excuse. My dad came here. All he had was a chicken.
The chicken.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a very similar thing. So let's talk about these new opportunities and advantages that entrepreneurs have. Why is the barrier to entry to becoming an entrepreneur so much lower than it was before?
Well, I think... Let's just talk about technology. If you're born with something, your dad, right, to leave, where did your dad leave?
Palestine. I'm 100%
Wow.
Palestinian. Yeah.
Amazing. I was trying to figure that from your name. I was guessing that. Amazing story, right? But think about your father had his share of obstacles, right? That you can't relate to. You weren't born with those. My children aren't born with the obstacles my grandfather had or some of the obstacles I had, right? They're born in a different era. So when you're born and things are at your fingertips. Your brain automatically goes to what's missing, what's lost, how hard is it, right? Politics are so insane right now all across the world, especially here in America. It's ridiculous, right? So our brain goes, oh, with this political, oh, with this, oh, there's too many people online. Oh, AI could crush us. AI is going to put us out of business. And our brain only defaults to what we know. Could you imagine your dad if someone said, hey, you have the opportunity to go online, to start a business, to find with your phone, you could find ideal clients. Your father would be like, this is the greatest thing in the world. He had a chicken and had to put himself through school. It would have seemed amazing. He would have been grateful every day. But if you took 2 generations later, maybe your children who are just brought up with all of it, their brain is going to find what's missing. So I know that's philosophical. It's a higher level than the exact. I'll get more tactical in a minute. But first, we have to adjust our thought process. Instead of saying, oh, it's really hard. No, it's not. If you want to go, ask your grandparents. If you have grandparents alive, ask your grandparents how they had to get by in life. I guarantee you're going to go, wow, I'm pretty damn lucky. I'm going to give you an example in my industry, right? I just want to be specific for a minute. I bought Tony Robbins, who's now my dearest friend and partner, but I bought his course 27 years ago, right? Before a lot of people listening were alive. Actually 28 years ago. So I bought his course. At that time, I worked on cars, I had a tow truck, I had apartments, but I bought Tony's course and it shifted my life. It made me realize that I gave Tony money for information. It shifted my life. I wanted to be in that business. So 27 years ago, I shifted everything. That's why I'm in this industry. But I want to share something. When I first started in this industry, so using this as a comparison, say you wanted to do what I do, what Tony does, what so many people are doing, and you want to impact others with your life experience, a talent you have, a skill you have, a passion that you have. When I started 27 years ago, listen to this, Hala, I had to produce an infomercial because there was no internet. People are like, why did you do infomercials? Like, 'cause I'm old. There was no internet. So I had to produce an infomercial, which was $150,000. And I used credit cards to get half that done. I had to get product built. This was when there was DVDs and cassette tapes and booklets. I had to get product printed and I had to put it in the warehouse and tapes and DVDs. I had to hire a company to ship it. Then I had to pay $50,000 in TV media just to get a test. So I was in over $200,000 and I was selling a $37 course. Like my family's like, you're an idiot. Like how many of those $37 courses do you have to sell just to get your money back? All of that had to happen. Fast forward today. You could literally use AI to help you unlock your life experience, to turn it into a coaching program or a course or a workshop or a monthly membership. You literally could do that in hours, right? You could get the framework of what you do. I would love to know your entrepreneurial journey. When I met you, you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now you got 60 or 80 employees and a thriving business. I would pay anything. I want to know your story. If you were 27 years ago, you'd have to do all things I did. Right now, you literally could go to AI for a day, lay it out, film on your phone, and plug into a system where by the end of the week, for the cost of like 5 cups of coffee, you could be online targeting your ideal client and making sales. So if you look at why it's been easier, things are getting exponentially easier every single day. People say to me, is AI going to take my job? I'm like, no. People who use AI the right way will take your job or take your career. That's all it is. It's not stealing your job. And everything new, maybe not for a younger generation, but everything new for a little bit older generation thinks it's the end of the world. Everything can be used for good. Everything can be used for bad. The internet, there's porn and people selling drugs, and there's life transformative information to save the world. It's what happens. It's you get to choose how you utilize this technology to empower you, empower others, impact and grow faster. So I think you are alive during the golden age. I know it might be hard to see. I know the world is in a crazy place. I know people are uncertain, but hear me. And I'm guessing with your age, your following is in that same demographic.
Yes.
And I'm sure you got variables on each side, outliers, but I want to share this with you. And I'm not trying to say, well, no, when I went to school, I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow. I just want you to know, if you can put yourself in a place of, this is what I have rather than this is what I lost. Where can I look for opportunities rather than looking for obstacles? Where can I see where the world is going rather than looking in the mirror of where it was? I promise you, there is more opportunity for you right now to thrive. And you're also a part of a generation where we have instant gratification. So the other little bit of advice, not talking to you like a dad, but other little bit of advice, do not overestimate what you can do in a year. The other way, I should say, is we all overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what you can do in 5.
Yep.
And in the next 5 years with focus, look at this amazing woman that you follow. I was on her in 2020. It's not even 5 years yet. Because of determination, because of sticking, look how this woman's life has transformed. But if she would have judged, let me ask you, if you don't mind me putting that, if you would have judged this whole experience 6 months in,
it would have been, you're so right. If I would have looked back 6 months after starting, I would have seemed like I made no progress. But I started as a podcaster, right? 3 years later, I had an award-winning social media agency. 5 years later, I have the #1 business and self-improvement podcast network, and they call me the podcast princess, right? So literally 5 years later, I'm dominating my entire industry as like the #1 female podcaster, and I represent all the top business podcasts, and I make 30% of all their sponsorships, basically, right? So that, to your point, so much can change in 5 years if you just focus and you're consistent.
And what I think, I love it. And I love you're such proof of that. And I want people to look behind, because let me just ask you, was there a time in the first year where you said, I don't know if I should be doing this?
100%. The first 2 years, I feel like I had I was growing on LinkedIn and platforms, but pretty much stagnant growth. I was getting big guests, but I couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. I was really becoming an entrepreneur and realizing that, hey, I can monetize my podcast in other ways and then reinvest into my dream and ultimately get what I want, but maybe not in a straight path.
Right. Okay. In that time, thank you for that honesty. And I don't mean to be interviewing you, but I want to ask you a couple more
No,
questions.
it's great.
And any of that time, did anyone in your family say, Hala, are you sure you're doing the right thing?
Yes. I mean, I had to actually break up with my ex-boyfriend because he didn't want me to become an entrepreneur. He was happy with me being a podcaster, but as soon as I started a business, he was, and it was basically my husband, right? So I had to break up with my long-term partner.
Yeah. So think about and the only reason I'm saying, so you questioned yourself, questioned your finances, people who loved you questioned you.
Mm-hmm.
And was there ever a moment where you just said, I got to bail, and it's like, and you started researching, where should I go? Should I go back to a secure job? Should I do podcasting on the side and get a 9 to 5? Only reason I'm sharing this, you're shaking your head, yes. The reason I'm sharing this is because I want all of you to know, to do your own thing. Everybody sees the end result. Ogmandino, he wrote a book called The World's Greatest Salesman. And he said, you got to remember that the prize is at the end of the journey, not the beginning. And you don't know how many corners you have to go around until your prize is there. Meaning, in my opinion, that is, or my observation is, that's like, you don't have any corners of obstacles. Overcoming your parents, overcoming someone leaving you because you wanted to live into your full potential, overcome the self-doubt, overcome the imposter syndrome, another corner. And sometimes you go around 6 corners, you go like, this one was so hard, and you get around the corner and there's still another corner. You're like, oh my God, when is this gonna happen? But that's only when you're in it. When you're in it, it seems like forever. Now I'm sitting here having a conversation with you. I bet you look back, go, oh my God, I got to this in 4.5 years. It is lightning speed. And here's the part you got to realize. You might miss. Now, in my era, and if any of you have children, I love to think about or say the truth. You probably missed going out with girlfriends at certain times, maybe missed on some dating opportunities, missed out on some family functions. You have a friend, I will bet my life, you have a friend that go, oh, you're too busy with your company, you don't even call me anymore. I guarantee you have one.
100%.
Okay, those same people are gonna look at you in 3 or 4 years and go, oh my God, I used to know her. I wonder if I could get some information on how I could do what she did. What I'm saying is, everybody wants the outcome of where this amazing woman is right now and where she's gonna be over the next 10 years, but most people aren't willing to do the work. So I'm just gonna tell you today, do the work. Don't expect it to happen in 3 months or 6 months or a year. But if you, I know you haven't asked a lot of questions, and I know I'm rambling here. Feel free to stop me at any time.
No, I love it. I love what you're saying.
Here's something really important. Somebody just asked me last week about, what's the fastest way to success? It's like, oh my God, now. There's a million things that you never thought you had to think about that you do. But if I had to boil it down to a few, number 1, model proven practices. Find somebody who's already done what you're doing and model what they're doing. have them be a mentor, get in their coaching program, just obsessively observe everything they're doing. There is no reason in today's world to start at zero when somebody is already doing what you want to do. Start off where they left off and then make it yours, number one. Number two, you need a big enough purpose. If your purpose is, I want to get rich and buy the watch and go on vacations, I promise you there'll be a point where you go, it's not worth it. But when you have the opportunity to go deeper and say, hey, my father came with a chicken and transformed his life. I want my family to see. I want to, maybe in your life, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I want a partner that sees my worth as a human, as an entrepreneur, and fuels my entrepreneurship. I am not going to stop that because I'm going to attract a man or a partner that loves me for exactly who I am. We need something so big that when you get turned down, when you're 6 months in, when imposter syndrome kicks in, when a boyfriend breaks up with you or a parent tells you you're crazy, something so big that you go, I hear you, but I'm not stopping. And then the third thing is you just got to keep persisting. You got to keep going around corners because some of us have to go around 3 corners. Some of us have to go around 30. But if you persist, you will succeed. There's no way around it.
I love it. I'm sure you got everybody tuning in fired up about being an entrepreneur if they're not one yet. Yap Bam, I launched my company Yap Media 4 years ago, right when COVID started. We had no choice but to launch as a remote company. Fast forward to now, we are 60 employees all around the world and we're fully remote. However, I've been feeling really burnt out from the whole work from home thing. I'm sick of it. I talk to my team all day, and while I'm having all this virtual interaction, it doesn't replace human connection. I need human connection. I want to feel the vibes. I want to feel the energy in the room. So I knew something needed to change. I needed to get out of the house just a couple days a week, find a co-working space that was going to work for me, that was going to motivate me and reinvigorate my motivation to work hard. And so I was seeking the best co-working space I could find, and I landed on Industrious. Industrious delivers co-working spaces and flexible office solutions, and they've got everything you would need from private offices and suites to co-working, dedicated desks, and on-demand meeting rooms. Industrious has locations all over the world, the US, UK, Australia, you name it. In the tri-state area alone, they have 25 locations for me to choose from. They've got a location 5 minutes away from me in Jersey City. If I want to go see my mom in Central Jersey, there's a location right by her. So I love the fact that I can hop from location to location and switch up my scenery. And speaking of scenery, their locations are gorgeous. They've got beautiful furniture. It's just well designed. And my favorite thing about Industrious is the community. They have a really friendly staff, first of all. And second of all the people that I bump into at Industrious and mingle with seem to be rock stars. So I'm really excited about the prospect of making some new friends at Industrious because I feel like I'm just bumping into people that I would be friends with all the time. If you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur or freelancer and you've been working from home these past few years and you feel like you're in a rut, maybe it's time to switch it up like I did. Maybe it's time to start co-working at Industrious. Industrious actually found out that I have a popular podcast and they gave me a nice gift from my listeners, a free week of co-working to try Industrious yourself. If you want to give Industrious a try, visit industriousoffice.com, click join now, and use code PROFITING to redeem a free week of co-working when you take a tour. That's industriousoffice.com and use code PROFITING for a free week of co-working. And who knows, maybe we'll bump into each other. So before we get into more information about entrepreneurship, I did want to talk about your event coming up. So it's June 13th, June 15th. Who should be going to that event? It's called The Game Has Changed. It's co-hosted with Tony Robbins. Who should be going? What are they going to learn? How can they sign up?
Yeah, such great. Thank you. I'm so stoked. We're only a short time away from this. We do one a year, but this is unlike anything we've ever done before. We're going to have over 1 million people signed up, which I can't wait because the game has completely changed. Who should sign up is if you're the investigator. I like calling someone who's unfulfilled in their current career or tried something and it's not working and you know you're meant for more, you just don't know what to do and where to start. Come, investigate. It's free. It's 3 days, about 3 hours a day. I promise you it'll be the greatest event you've been a part of because you'll see opportunities. If nothing else, it will inspire you that you know you need to do more. Mm-hmm. The second I'm going to call the part-timer. You're kind of an entrepreneur, you're kind of not. I don't want to call you a dabbler, but you're like, every time it gets a little rough, you bail back out to something you don't like, and then you realize you don't like it, and you're like, you dabble with something else. There's no dabbling. The only way is to go all in, burn the boats. So if you're the dabbler part-timer, you need to come. And if you're in business and it's time to scale, come learn why you should have an information product attached to your business. It'll be when you start doing business, and you do already, you realize you got a profit and loss statement, your P&L, it'll be the most profitable thing on your P&L statement. So who should come? The investigator, the part-timer, our person in business. And we're going to show you over the next over 3 days is how your greatest asset is your life experience, a skill, a passion that you have, and how to extract it, how to turn it into a product, how to find your ideal client, how to turn it into a real business, how to deliver it with passion and confidence. This is what Tony and I have done collectively for 74 years, Hala. And we're at a place in our lives where we just want to shake everybody and go, please look at this. This industry is at $1 billion a day. It's headed towards $1 trillion a year, and it needs excited entrepreneurs who understand the process of putting out wisdom. The last thing I'll say is we are drowning in information, but we are starving for wisdom. And when you know the difference of putting something out there that actually gets people benefits, it actually lets them reach their desires, you stand out. And with 74 years of experience, we know how to show people to do that with confidence.
Yeah, you totally do. You guys have sold some of the biggest online events out there, and that's basically what you're teaching, how to put out digital products. Is that
exactly
right?
How to create information, digital products, and every single one of you might be thinking, I have nothing to offer. Not true. Every one of you has something someone else needs and wants right now. And I think it's the great equalizer. I think it's a way to start. I think it's a way to on-ramp into something new while you're off-ramping in something you don't like. You don't have to jump in all at once. And I'm sure it's in the show notes, but we have a link where everyone can register for free. It's deanandtonylive.com/Hala. Hala, of course. So deanandtonylive.com/Hala, and you can register for free. We're really stoked.
Awesome. So like he said, it's going to be in the show notes. So Dean, let's stick on this topic for a little bit in terms of how people don't have to choose between their career and their passions anymore. So like there used to be a day where to make money, you just had to do hard work. Didn't necessarily mean you liked to do the work, but it was what was available. And that's really not the case anymore. So how have things changed from the past in terms of this?
Such a great question. I could sit and chat with you for hours, because the main reason we called it The Game has changed just because of that. People used to think to get successful, I have to find a way that makes money, even if I like it or I don't, sacrifice myself completely and just hopefully make the money. That has changed exponentially because of technology, because of AI, because of the ability to learn at a fast pace, to be able to get product and testing out like that at minimal cost. All of those things have changed. That's why we named it The Game has changed. But I think the most important thing, and I can see in the interviews, because I watched a few of your interviews before so I could get to know you even a little better since it's been 4.5 years. I think we've been taught and told the biggest lie when you hear people say we must have work-life balance. I think that's the biggest crap in the world. Do you know anybody that has work-life balance? I think that's shared with people because people didn't like their jobs. Over 50% of people are in a job that they hate, not dislike, they hate it, right? So they're in a job that they hate, and it's like, I must balance. I can picture somebody like at the front door before they walk in, like, I got to balance. I'm going to walk through the door with a smile. I need this balance. I need this balance. It never works, right? If you're having a bad day at work, you carry that home. If things aren't going, if your boss has got his thumb on your head or her thumb on your head, you carry it home. So what you've discovered, and you probably know this, I'm just going to put a term to it, is life-work integration. When you have the opportunity to do something that empowers you, we're working right now, both of us. This is a blast. I'm having a time of my life.
It's always fun.
We're working. This is our work, right? And if you inspire me today, or I'm watching some of your other podcasts and I get inspired and I'm in a better space and I see a breakthrough and I see I could live into my full potential. When I go home to my wife, I'm a better man. When I play with my kids, I'm a better father. And what the wish I would wish I could grant, and the reason we're doing this live event is to show you that you literally could have a life, not a pie in the sky, not get rich for doing anything, but you could have a life where you don't care and you don't know where work ends and life begins, because you're growing as a human in both of them. And that's why we call it The Game has changed. And COVID proved that. When COVID came, we were all home. That's when we did our last interview. A lot of people didn't go back because they're like, I'm not going back to a group that makes me feel bad about myself every day, that stops my innovation. But most people didn't know where to turn. And that's why Tony and I will scream from mountaintops to give people a path and a plan to do that.
Yeah. So what about normal people, right? People who are not me or you, they don't have a platform. Why do you think that they have something to teach other people? How do they know when they do have something to teach other people?
Really great question. I know a lot of you are young on here. Listen, but let me just ask you, and I've asked a lot of people this, when people say to me, I'm not sure my life experience is valuable, I say, if you had the opportunity to go back and spend 1 week with your 18-year-old self, and for that 1 week, your 18-year-old is going to sit and listen to you for a week. And I've asked with $1 million, I've asked with 100,000. I said, if you had a chance to go back and spend a week with your 18-year-old self and you could bring back any information, here's where the business should go in. Don't get in that relationship, because don't look at the lens of relationship. Don't replicate what your parents did. Like, think of all the things you would tell your 18-year-old self. Think bigger. Don't let other people get in your mind. Maybe don't go to college. Go right into entrepreneurship and find specialized knowledge. Go mentor for somebody. Take a deep breath. You don't need to be married by 25. Like, all the things that you would do. I say, would you choose, if I could wave a magic wand and put $1 million in your bank account, or send you back for a week with your 18-year-old self? 99.9% of the time, everybody always goes, oh my God, I would go back and talk to my 18-year-old self. My life would be better. I'd be happier. I'd be more fulfilled. I would change my exercise. I would change the way I looked at relationship, the way I looked at entrepreneurship. Oh my God, that's worth hundreds of millions. You got to realize the life experience you've accumulated is that valuable to someone else who's just starting off. If you went through a bad breakup and found yourself after, somebody's starting the breakup. You might want to create a program or a community based around that. If you got good at sales, if you got good at podcasts, if you got good at anything, you are one step ahead of somebody who's starting on zero. You get to collapse time. And that's what all of us want. We want time. We want the smart entrepreneurs cut checks for speed. That's just it. And you have the opportunity to collapse time for other people. And that's, by day one, everybody's going to know, oh, I do have something and this is what it is.
Yeah, I love what you're saying because it's so true. For instance, AI. AI just came out a year ago, or for the public. If you've mastered AI in the last year, you're already so much far ahead of everybody who hasn't even thought about it yet. And you can turn that into a product, just even having a year of experience.
You are so 100% right. Especially everybody over 40 is struggling with AI. Everybody under 40 is part of their life. My kids, my 17 and 15-year-old son use it every day of their life, right? Where my dad, I got to explain to him every 5 minutes on how it's not Google. It's different, and show him how to ask questions, right? So great example. Great example.
Yeah. Young and Profiters, I've been a CEO for over 4 years now, and I finally cracked the code on hiring. I look for character, attitude, and reliability. But it takes a lot of time to make sure our candidates have the proper culture fit. We are scrappy hustlers at Yap Media. And if you don't act scrappy, you won't fit in. And so we need to make sure you fit in. And that's why I let Indeed do all the heavy lifting. Indeed has things like skills assessments, where when we have specific roles, we can find an assessment that matches that role and we can make sure they have the skills that we need. Then I can focus on culture fit. I can make sure they're scrappy enough and are obsessed with excellence and do all the things that we need to do for them to fit in at Yap. And Yap Media is growing so fast. I have 10 open roles just this month. In the past, it would take me so long to find hires. I have to go on all these different job sites. I have to create my own skills assessments. I'd be setting up interviews. It'd be super awkward if they didn't get the job. They had my personal contact information. Now, Indeed lets you attract, interview, and hire all in one place. It's the most powerful hiring tool that is out there. And Indeed streamlines hiring with powerful tools like Instant Match. An Instant Match basically matches you with candidates as soon as you put up a job post with people who are qualified right away. It's instant. And the best part is it gets better as you use it. So now when I use Indeed, especially when I'm hiring for similar roles, I get people right away where they know that I'm going to like the candidates because they can see what my preferences were in the past. It gets better as you use it. According to US Indeed data, the moment Indeed sponsors a job, over 80% of employers get candidates whose resumes are a perfect match for the position. It's like waving a magic wand that gets better as you use it. So I love using Indeed. We've found a lot of our A players on there. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide who count on Indeed to hire their next superstar like we do at Yap Media. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/profiting. Offer is good for a limited time. Again, that's Indeed.com/profiting. And support the show by saying you heard about it on Young and Profiting Podcast. Again, it's Indeed.com/profiting to get your $75 credit. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Okay, so we talked about some of the opportunities, the fact that technology is moving so fast. It's easier than ever to become an entrepreneur, to sell something online. But let's talk about some of the challenges. And I know one of the big challenges is inflation. And when I think about inflation, I think about groceries, right? I don't really think about entrepreneurship. So how does inflation impact entrepreneurship?
And I'm just going to quote Warren Buffett, or not quote, but share some of the things he said. He said, during high inflation, if you have a business that relies on buying product and having it shipped, you can get slaughtered because gas prices can go up, the cost of storing it goes up, and the cost of the product goes up. So if you have small margins, if you're buying something for $20 and you're selling it for $30, and all of a sudden gas prices, margin, shipping goes up, your profit is destroyed. So again, they say if you're a carpenter and you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So of course, I'm going to look through the lens of my business, my industry. Why I love what you're doing right now is right now you are providing value to the world, right? You have sponsorships. The company's there to make money, and it should. You should make a lot of money for the lives you're changing. I hope you make more than anything on the planet because you're impacting lives for a living. But right now, you're not paying for a product. You're delivering this through social media platforms that don't cost you anything. Like your cost of goods is zero. Of course, you have to have a studio. You have to have someone help you. I get all that. But you're not putting product in a business and you don't know if inflation is going to destroy you. You own a grocery store right now. You are screwed. People are mad that the prices go up and your margins are going down. You can do nothing about it. You're choked. Why I love the information industry is because your product costs nothing. You don't have to store it. You don't have to warehouse it. Inflation doesn't impact it. And it's one of the most valuable assets you can deliver to people. So to me, it is inflation proof. And simultaneously, you can grow. You hired, did you say you're at 60 people?
60 employees, yes.
Amazing, amazing, right? If we get to sell information and grow, then we hire other people, we can pay them better, and we help reduce the stress of inflation.
Yeah, totally. So that's awesome in terms of inflation. So traditional business models are not doing as well as new business models that are online because of this inflation, because you have to have products, store it. We basically have free distribution now. What other challenges do you think entrepreneurs are facing right now? Like or let me ask you a different question. What do you think are the best businesses and the worst businesses to start right now?
Okay, but I'm gonna go to your first question too. I'm gonna write best and worst. But I think the biggest challenge, and this is just my age is determining this. I think our biggest challenge is the stories that are going on inside of our heads. In all my years in partnering and been able to, been fortunate to meet some amazing entrepreneurs and multiple billionaires. And I'd say like, look at me, but you see, you can't help and you do this because you're interviewing so many great people. You are seeing trends. That's why you're doing so well in your business. It's a great business model, by the way. You're interviewing incredible entrepreneurs, and then you take what you learn and input it in your own business. Brilliant, right? Brilliant. But if you see the entrepreneurs who thrive, especially when things are changing, it's because they're working on their personal development. They work on their personal growth. They work on their thoughts. They work on their emotions. Because during uncertain times, and I would say we are in those, our brains can start focusing on what could go wrong. Our brains start focusing on how to protect, how to play goalie. And a lot of times when things shift, you can't play goalie, you can't protect, because if you're not climbing, you're sliding. That's a fact. So a couple of things, and I would write these down. Number one, you must protect your confidence. In a shifting time, in a crazy time, in a time you want to grow, you have to protect your confidence. You've never made a good decision when your confidence is down. You didn't get the date, you didn't get the relationship, you didn't get the job, you didn't get the sale. You got nothing when your confidence is down. You know that. So you have to focus on anything you can. Borrow confidence from the past. Borrow confidence from a great podcast. Borrow confidence from an incredible book. Borrow confidence from a mantra. I can do this. I can do anything. God gave me a gift and I'm going to bring it to life. Whatever it is you need to do, you got to work on your mindset because, again, not quoting simple quotes, but Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you won't. And so it doesn't matter if you have the greatest business. If you get in your head, you're dead. If you get in your head thinking this is going to go wrong, inflation's going to kill me, what's going to go on with this election, you're focused so much on the outside, your business suffers. So for me, I would say go upstream and work on you. Become unstoppable. Have a mind that you can question the negative thoughts. You can observe and say, I get that part, but I'm going after the opportunity, not the obstacle. I'm going to focus on what I have, not what I've lost. And I think you need to be a warrior inside your mind right now more than any other thing. Because once you have that, I would absolutely go with someone with an unstoppable mindset and a C opportunity than someone who's scared with an A opportunity.
Yeah. Confidence is so important, even just the number one job of an entrepreneur is to sell, right? And if you have no confidence
Absolutely.
and you get on a sales call, you ain't selling. You're not selling anybody to join your team. You're not selling anybody to buy your products, and you need to be able to sell and have confidence. So let's talk about worst businesses and best businesses to start right now. What's your opinion?
I think I'd go back to what I said earlier. I wouldn't, in the way things are right now, I would not start anything that takes a huge capital call.
Yeah.
If you have to finance your house, if you have to get credit cards, if you have to borrow money or use your savings or tap into your 401k to put a lot of money out, I would honestly pause on that. I would pause on crazy spending right now. I know you didn't ask me that. I would pause on buying the brand new car today. I would pause on buying the really fancy watch. I would pause on buying the bigger house right now. I would pause on that just to see where things are going. But don't pause on your innovation. Don't pause on your creativity. Don't pause on your energy, right? And I would pause on putting money into any company that takes a huge upfront and if it's got huge product costs. So that's a must. And on the opposite side.
Yap bam. They may call me the podcast princess, but I'm also the LinkedIn queen. I've been an influencer on LinkedIn for 6 years now. I also have one of the top courses about LinkedIn. And I love to teach LinkedIn for sales because when it comes to B2B sales, LinkedIn is where it's at. All the major decision makers are hanging out on LinkedIn. There's 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-suite executives on LinkedIn. They are on there using LinkedIn for their buying journey. They're looking up the sales reps and vendors that they may want to work with. They're looking up how to solve their problems. They're learning from industry thought leaders. And they're in the mode to buy, meaning they're receptive to hearing about how you can solve their problems. If you want to cut through the noise and target these senior decision makers, you've got to use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn ads is an amazing tool. In fact, 79% of B2B marketers say that LinkedIn is their top channel for paid media. If you want to show these decision makers how you can solve their problems on LinkedIn and get direct access to them, use LinkedIn ads. They've got amazing targeting capabilities. They can find exactly who you want to target. LinkedIn is like a big social media search engine. You've got so much input, so much different from other websites where you get so much data about everyone because it's essentially their resume that has so many keywords on it, which LinkedIn can then use to target ads to them appropriately, also based on the content that they search and things like that. So the targeting is absolutely amazing. LinkedIn was so generous to give everybody who tunes into the show $100 credit to give LinkedIn ads a try. Make B2B marketing everything you can be and get $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/profiting to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/profiting. Terms and conditions apply.
Again, I feel like I just keep coming back to my thing, but there's other businesses like that. What businesses can you start with your own time and effort? What businesses can you start without a huge outlay of cash to get the first momentum, to get the first sales, to get things going? What things can you do to allocate resources, minimal resources, to spend a little and get a lot back and get proof of concept? I would not, here's what I'm just saying, if you're in a place where I'm going to quit my job and go all in, I would say find something where you can do a little bit at a time so you can see it's working. And then when the new thing is replacing the income of the old thing, then you can decide to transition. That's the time in life we're at. Now, if you're saying, I don't have time for that, I'm going to jump ahead here. I can just picture people saying, I'd love that, but my job keeps me so busy. Here's what I want to say. Obsess over the next couple of days and create a not to-do list. We all have a to-do list. Create a not to-do list. And here's what I would suggest. Realize your job or the thing you're doing right now is just a stepping stone in your life. It's not forever. If you do that, you'll appreciate it more. Because right now, if you're like, oh, I hate my job, I want to do this thing, it doesn't usually work that way. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you got to go, don't love this job, but I love it for now because it's going to be my launching pad. That's number one. Number two, I would make a list of all the activities that you do. Hear me on this one. 4 different buckets. Bucket number 1 on the activities you do are non-negotiables. For me, that would be date night with my wife, spending time with my kids, bring them to school. Like there's non-negotiables. I'm not stopping doing them. I'm not missing tennis matches. I'm not missing softball practices. I'm not. Non-negotiable. So once you have your list of non-negotiables, number 2 is, what can I automate? What things do I work on that I could do auto pay? I could have my dry cleaning picked up or groceries delivered. What can you automate that buys you back time? So that'll buy back a little. Number 3, what can you delegate? Are there things I could get a $5 an hour assistant online or Fiverr, or what are some things I could do with a virtual assistant or with people in my family or my cousin or my brother? What can I do to delegate some of these things to buy back some more time? The 4th is the most important. What must you eliminate? What do you have to stop doing? If going out with your girlfriends, have a couple drinks, and all of a sudden, you realize you wasted 3 hours of your time and you really didn't accomplish much, maybe you got to spend the next 3 months without that. The last time you got on your phone and said, I'm going to surf for a minute, and you're on for an hour, maybe you got to stop that. Last time you binged on Netflix, maybe you got to stop that. And you see why the purpose is so important, because you need something bigger to go, screw Netflix right now. The hell with this. I'm not going to do this. So you need to know what you can eliminate. And the easiest way to eliminate it is, does this serve the woman or the man I want to become? Or does it not serve the man or the woman I want to become? If it doesn't, you got to cut it. There's no gray. You got to get rid of the gray. Gray is for people who are stuck and they drift their whole life. So the heck with the gray. If you really could say, these are non-negotiable, I'm going to automate these few things, I'm going to delegate some of this, I'm going to quit doing this, guess what? 3 or 4 or 5 hours a week open up. You spend those 3, 4, 5 hours a week on your new project and obsess on it. Stop going, sacrifice today, miss a few things today, say no today to other people, because then in a year or 5 years now, you could say yes to freaking everything. And then start working on the new thing. When the new thing replaces the old thing, there you go.
Yeah. Really, really smart advice. And I have to say that I did that as well. I remember for 4 years, I didn't watch any TV. I didn't even post on Instagram. I focused on LinkedIn for my job and my podcast. I didn't really go out much on the weekends. I just sacrificed. But then 4 years later, I'm able to manage my schedule. I do whatever I want. It can be temporary sacrifice. It doesn't have to be forever.
Right. And if you're in a career you hate, that's a lifelong sacrifice. I'd rather sacrifice hard for 4 years to live 60 in a really abundant way.
So good. Okay, so let's talk about how we can actually turn our passions into a real business. Like, what kind of things should we be thinking through? What kind of a roadmap should we have?
It's really good. I would first off, I would think of, what are some of the things people come to you for, right? If you put it in buckets, number 1 is, a lot of us have a career skill. Even if we're in a career we don't like, you've learned something that at one point you didn't know and now you do, whether that's sales or accounting, or it's human resources, or it's helping people with their mental philosophy, it's being a leader in your company. Even though you might not like it in your company, when you have the opportunity to turn that into a product and you inspire others, it becomes so rewarding and fulfilling. So I would think, what is your core competency or unique ability you have in a skill or in your business? That's number 1. Number 2, we have so many clients that have taken a life experience. We have people who have gone through divorce and they found a way to do a child-centered divorce, and now they have hundreds of thousands of members helping with divorce. We got amazing woman helping women through menopause naturally, or trimester 4, they call it, after your baby's born, or just people turned vegan and got rid of all their ailments, and now they're teaching people to go vegan. Like, that is life experience. And sometimes, hear me on this one, sometimes your mess is your best message. I went through a horrible breakup, and now I'm a stronger person today than I ever was. I'm going to help people who are just starting out with their breakup. And so many times people say to me, well, I'm not all the way through yet. It's like, I got this from Jenna Kutcher. She's in my
network, Jenna Kutcher.
Yeah, Jenna became a dear friend. Yeah. And Jenna said, well, people got to realize sometimes your best time to share is when you're in the messy middle. because you're in the thick of it, but you're still one chapter ahead of someone else. So if you're a chapter ahead, even though you're in the messy middle, you can help bring people along with you on the ride. And then the last one is something you're extremely passionate about. I just used my partner, Tony Robbins, as an example. He found out years ago how so many people were getting ripped off in their 401ks and their IRAs. And he got pissed and it became a passion and he studied it. He's not the finance guy. Tony's the best strategist and business coach, but not the finance guy. But he studied it obsessively. Then he interviewed the best guys in the world and he wrote the book, Money Master the Game. It's still the #1 investing book of our generation. And he's not the guy. He became the reporter of other people because he was passionate about it. So you either have a career skill, a life experience, or something you're passionate about that someone else is starting off on day one. And that's the way I would start looking at it. And then, of course, how to package it, how to deliver it, how to find people who want it. That's what we do so well. But that's how I would start.
Young and profiters. As you may know, I launched my LinkedIn Secrets Masterclass over a year ago now. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made for my business. I've made over $500,000 to date on this course, my first course ever. And it's mostly pure profit, which I love. The other thing that I love is that I didn't have to spend a lot of time on the tech stuff. I didn't have to figure out how to collect payments, how to set up my mastermind subscriptions, how to do abandoned cart targeting, and all of that tech geeky stuff. I just left that all to Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, whether you're selling your first product, finally taking your side hustle full time, or making $500,000 from your masterclass like me. And it doesn't matter if you're selling digital products or vegan cosmetics. Shopify helps you sell everywhere. They've got an all-in-one e-commerce platform that is best in class. And then they also have an in-person POS system if you have a brick and mortar store. Shopify's got you covered no matter how you scale. Stop those online window shoppers in their tracks and turn them into loyal customers with the internet's best converting checkout. I'm talking 36% better on average compared to the other options out there. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from huge shoe brands like Allbirds to vegan cosmetic brands like Thrive Cosmetics. In fact, I interviewed both those founders, and let's talk about Carissa Bodnar. She's the CEO and founder of Thrive Cosmetics. She told me how Shopify enabled her to become $1 million business because she was able to focus on what she was good at. She was good at creating makeup. She was a chemist and a scientist, and she wanted to create vegan makeup, good for you makeup that was high quality. And so she got to focus on that, and Shopify did all the heavy lifting on the tech side. It's plug and play. It takes a day to set up your website. It is really something that is easy to use no matter your tech experience. She was a makeup girly, and she created $1 million business, more than $1 million business on Shopify. So again, if you want to check that out, that's episode number 253. It's super inspiring for all of you out there. And if you're tuning in right now and you've got an idea that you want to act on, but you feel like, I just don't have the support, I don't have the resources that I need. You've got a business idea that you can't stop thinking about. This is your sign. You should give Shopify a try. Stop waiting on your dreams. Do it now. Go to shopify.com/profiting. That's all lowercase. Don't forget it. Shopify.com/profiting for a $1 per month trial period. You can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/profiting. Don't wait to grow your business. No matter what stage you're in, go to shopify.com/profiting. So one question, just to kind of piggyback on it, you just sort of mentioned it, is how do you know if you have a product that people actually want? Because as you're talking about these personal experiences, skills that you have, some of them are, it's really interesting because I never would have thought of like menopause as something that you can teach, but it's so smart because so many women are going through this. There's probably very little information out there. And even if you're not, a gynecologist or something, you might have an experience to share to teach other people that people would actually want and pay for. And there's a large market. So how do you know that you have a big enough market for what you're trying to sell?
We actually teach the smaller the niche, the better. Because you get to this thing in our pocket has us connected to the whole world. We only need 1/10 of 1% of people that have our ammo, as long as we can find them, right? That is the, for example, we had an accountant. You think, what would an accountant teach? When he was 50, he decided to create his own accounting firm. He worked for somebody else. He started his own business, started doing great, and he realized, wow, I was stuck as an accountant. I hated it for 30 years. So he doesn't just teach people how to be a better accountant. He teaches young accountants how to transfer into their own business quicker so they can live a fulfilled life. So he doesn't say, I'll teach you how to do your taxes better. I'll teach you how to use, a certain spreadsheet. He's like, no. I don't want you to waste 30 years like I did. Let me teach you young hustler accountants how to get your own firm quicker, right? So sometimes you think, well, I'm good at sales. Well, what kind of sales? And do you want to help women in sales? Do you want to help women over 50 in sales? Do you want to help young people learn how to get their first sale? When I first started in real estate, I didn't own strip malls. I didn't own multifamily. I was really good at just getting into my first single family home, and then my second, then my third. So I taught real estate. I had the #1 real estate education training in the world, nothing even close. And all my training was, if you're thinking about getting into real estate, let me show you how to get into your first one. Not how to do 1 million flips, not how to make $1 million a month, not how to do multifamily. And because our world is so connected, that company, was one of the biggest in the world in that space because I found a niche. So we actually teach people to go smaller. I mean, we've had people doing art classes on how to paint with wolves. I always remember that one. I was like, wait, what was that? She has baby wolves.
Okay.
And she teaches you to paint outside because you have the paint that's relaxing, but you have a wolf laying next to you. That's the energy of a wolf. And she felt the combo was great. That's not my jam. I would never do that. But she sells out her events every month. Like, it's just because right now we are in contact with so many people, we can find our tiny niche, and that tiny niche could still be 1 million people.
Yeah, and I know that the more niche you are, the more that you can charge because you're solving a very, very specific problem.
Right. And the confidence goes up. I've always said, if the woman who teaches menopause, I just remember it was like, wow, I would never think of something like that. And I remember being on with her in one of my Zoom calls, and I said, your confidence goes up when you're in a room of people that need exactly what you need to share. So if I said, hey, in the next room, we have a mastermind room, if it's 100 people next to them, like if there was 100 people in there, and I said, hey, there's some men, there's some women, different ages, could you go teach about menopause? You'd be like, no, that's embarrassing. I'm not going out there. And then if I said, okay, no men, it's just all women, could you go teach? Be like, no, because there's young girls. They don't even know what that means. They don't know what it feels like. I said, okay, now there's 100 women in there between 42 and 50. They're going through menopause. They feel like they're going crazy. They feel like their husband or their partner doesn't love them anymore. They have night sweats and they feel uncomfortable. Would you go talk to them? She goes, yes, I'm a warrior for them. Let me go help them. You open up the shirt, your cape is on. You want to go help these women. So the smaller the niche, the more your confidence goes up because you have the breakthroughs for them, right? Where people think I got to help women. No, what women, what group, what transition, right? So that's where our world's at.
And to your point, competence breeds confidence, right? So if you're super focused on one specific problem and you become like the go-to person for it, your confidence is going to go up too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So one last question. Let's talk about AI because you're talking about how the game has changed. How has AI changed the game? How do you think entrepreneurs are going to use AI? How do you use AI? I'd love to know.
Yeah. So I think, again, one of those things, most of you listening have probably already used it, but how do you sharpen the axe? How do you sharpen the tool to use it even more? And we know if you ask the right question, you get the right answer. But what I see and for example, what Tony and I are doing, we've created an AI and we've spent the last year working on it that thinks like Tony and I. We've taken our knowledge, our experience. How do we do 1 million person events? How do we do our marketing? How do we write our emails? How do we get people to show up? How do we identify what our asset is? And how do we lay out a course or lay out a coaching program or lay out a podcast or lay out a in-person workshop or an in-person mastermind? And we took our years of experience. Like, I say this and I know you guys get it, but if someone would have told me or any of us 10 years ago that this would have been real, you'd be like, no way, right? It's like, but it's here. So for example, where I see the niches, where it's going to really transform is instead of it just being general help, what Tony and I are creating, just as an example, is how do you think like Tony and Dean when it comes to being in this industry? How do I lay out my course? What are the 6 topics I should teach on menopause or teaching people how to do podcasts or teaching people how to sell? How would I look at, what would you name the product? What would you price the product? What would be the headline? What would be the first page? What is the pictures? All of those things when it thinks like Tony and I, it gives us the answers in seconds. Even 6 years ago when we used to teach this, it was probably 2 or 3 months to get through all that. Who's my ideal client? Who should I be targeting? What kind of message do 40 to 60-year-old women need to get to say yes? All of that comes out and it thinks like us. It's like having me in your pocket. Then I got 30 years of doing this. I never would have thought that existed. And sometimes people think it's difficult when really done right, it's simplicity on the other side of complexity, right? It's a complex. I could never imagine how AI works. But I know if I ask it the right question, the simplicity is it gives me an answer that just saved me a month's of time and research. So it is going to change the game. And those that understand how to utilize it are going to be out in front. What Tony and I have been saying, we were just on the phone last night talking about it. And I said, when you understand this allows you to have an unfair advantage. It really does. It allows you to be one step ahead. And those of you who are going to ignore it, unfortunately, are going to be 2 steps behind. I know that sounds harsh, but it's just a reality. And this is the time to embrace it. Don't stick your head in the sand. Don't think it's going to go away. The game has truly changed forever. You might as well get the new game plan.
Yeah. Yeah, AI is something that we're like heavily focused on. Like, how can we use it? How can we make sure that because to your point, everyone's going to be using it and be like light years ahead of us if we don't figure out how we're going to leverage AI for ourselves.
Absolutely.
All right. So this has been such an incredible conversation. Again, guys, the Game Has Changed event is June 13th to the 15th. We're going to stick the link in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. That website again is Dean.
It's deanandtonylive.com/Hala.
Okay, perfect.
And and it is free. I just got to share. But the last thing I'll say is, it's free, but can you pretend you paid $1,000 for it? Because in my experience, when people don't pay, sometimes you don't pay attention. Tony and I get ridiculous amounts of money for events and consulting. I get $250,000 a day for consulting. I don't say that to brag. I can't believe it. I pinch myself sometimes. But this is truly free. And just put a value in your head. I promise you it'll be an incredible experience and it will open your eyes to some really amazing things.
Yeah, I've been to these events. They're incredible. They're no fluff. You're actually going to learn things. And as entrepreneurs, you really need to figure out how to put on these digital products. It's very important. So hopefully you guys go. So Dean, 2 last questions that I end all my shows with. And it doesn't have to be about today's topic. You can go wherever you want to go. What is one actionable piece of advice that our young and profiters can do today to become more profitable tomorrow?
Yeah. I would say, I'm going to go back to what I already shared with you. I would today make a list of all the things you do on a weekly basis, and I would get rid of the things that don't serve the man or the woman you want to become. Just stop doing it. Sacrifice a little today so you can have just an abundant life forever.
Great advice. And what is your secret to profiting in life?
Money without fulfillment is the emptiest thing in the world. So work on you as much as you work on your business. Jim Rohn, an old personal development trainer, is the one that got Tony Robbins in this world. He said, for things to get better, we have to get better. And I think if you just work on the money part, you might miss the most important part of love, family, connection, children, if that's what you so choose. Don't sacrifice one for the other, because the fact of the matter is, if you have more joy in the journey of entrepreneurship, you will get there faster.
And where can everybody learn more about you and everything that you do?
I would say you can find me on Instagram at Dean Graziosi.
Awesome. We'll stick all of your links in the show notes. Dean, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, this is amazing. Take care, everybody.